Rob, coming back home, what do you think the Seahawks need to do in the draft starting April 30th?
Well, I think that when you look at their roster, there certainly are some concerns along at wide receiver, along the offensive line, at cornerback, especially in the secondary now with all the injury concerns. So I think those are going to be some areas of focus. When it's the Seattle Seahawks, of course, they're always going to focus on pressure on the defensive line. So I think that they're also going to be focusing there. And then obviously whatever Marshawn Lynch decides to do, the Seahawks may also be forced to look at this running back class. So this isn't like the last couple of classes where it was fairly easy to pinpoint the positions they might go. You didn't know which players John Schneider and Pete Carroll were going to choose, but you had an idea of which positions. This year's class, because Seattle does have a variety of needs, not only in terms of potential starters, but also depth players, I think the Seahawks can go any number of ways in the first round, and that obviously is going to impact what they do in the later rounds. But I believe that their biggest area of concerns are wide receiver, cornerback, offensive line potentially, and then also potentially at running back as well.
Fans saw what Chris Matthews did in the Super Bowl, and they said, aha, that's what they need. They need a 6'4", 6'5" masher who can just out-physical everybody. Who in the draft might intrigue it? Dorial Beckham, again, 6'5", 6'6" kid from Georgia Tech. I mean, who might be around for the Seahawks first, second, third round?
For a second or third round, other big receivers that are interesting, guys like Chris Matthews, might be like Michigan's Devin Funchess, who unfortunately didn't work out as well, at the combine, and so therefore his stock might be dropping a little bit. A receiver who I'm very high on, Jalen Strong. I can't imagine that he would still be available in the late second round, but there's so many good wide receivers again this year that it could push some receivers down the board just a little bit. And I think that the Seahawks, if they do believe that Chris Matthews is their answer, is that big receiver, then they might be looking for a more of a dynamic either slot guy or a vertical stretch or a vertical threat type of guy to stretch the defense. Obviously with the injury to Paul Richardson, that's a bigger area of concern. So there's some receivers that kind of fit the bill in that regard. Auburn's Sammy Coates, Ohio State's Devin Smith are a couple of guys that come to mind, and a guy that Pete Carroll knows very well during his time at Southern Cal would be Nelson Aguilar. Is another guy that all these lanky guys that have the elite speed to be able to take the top off of the defense, and also might be able to give you a little bit more of a dynamic presence in the punt return game as well.
Is Jalen Strong, could he be a bargain because people perceive him not to be as fast, just how big he is?
Well, he worked out very well here, and so I think that he's going to build some buzz for himself at this point. That was certainly one of the concerns about him on tape, is that he didn't look like he had that straight line speed. And so I've compared him to Keenan Allen in the past, who, of course, was a star at Cal and has been very productive for San Diego Chargers in the last couple of years. And so certainly, if he is available to Seattle in the second round, then he's an absolute slam dunk, in my opinion. And I think that Jalen Strong is a good enough football player that even if he's available in the number 31 overall, then that might be a player that you have to consider as well.
James Carpenter's contract's ending. We all know the pass protection issues the offensive line's had. Who you think Seattle could get? 31, 62, 93?
I think that when you look at this draft class, it's not necessarily as strong in traditional guards. What I think Seattle could look to do is something that they did with James Carpenter, actually, and that they draft a player who played some tackle and then move him out or move him inside. There's a number of players on the top of this draft that I think can kind of fit the bill. Some of the guys who have the size that Seattle has traditionally kind of gone with is like a Donovan Smith from Penn State. I certainly expect that Eric Flowers from Miami would be off the board, but if he's available to them at number 31, then he would make some sense. And let's see, Ty Sambrailo from Colorado State is a little bit different type of an athlete. He's got lighter feet and longer arms, but he's an interesting type of guy as well because he's a little of that brawler mentality that Tom Cable was obviously a fan of.
NFL draft extraordinaire Rod Rang at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.